and welcome to Chat Sith Get Banged, the Team Calamity's Final Fantasy TCG podcast. I am your host, Tom Hall, and joining me today we have Team Calamity's Mitchell Lander.
Hello.
And the definitive voice for the UK scene, it's Mr. Cool, Alex Hancox.
Hey everybody.
Hello. So Alex, thanks for joining us. We specifically got you on today because we're on the Reraise hype machine. So we've got just under 2 weeks until the big UK Reraise event, which is our official Square Enix tournament for the year. And Alex, you're part of the team that's going to be running the event over at Brotherhood in London. So we thought we'd get you on and you can sort of hype it up as best you can, although ticket sales are pretty much done now anyway, aren't they? So this is more excitement.
Yeah, woo, hype, yeah.
Maybe do you want to do like a 30-second like promotional hype spiel for Reraise? Maybe I can put some dramatic music on in the background. Go on then, go for it.
Well, if you haven't bought your ticket yet, there's only about 18 or so left. It's going to be the event of the year. It's the first event of the year. Everyone cool is going to be there. See you there. So
that was pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Did you plan that beforehand?
No, I sprung it on him, so
yeah, I got all the stuff on the fly. No worries.
Oh, wow.
That's quite impressive, yeah. So yeah, Reraise happening. So, how many tickets are we at? 100. Just it went over 100 last week, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 102 today. There might have been another one in this afternoon, but yeah, it's only a few left. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's a 2-deck format. So, similar to how the UK did the Summer Cup. So you have 2 decks: Deck A, Deck B, Deck 1, Deck 2. I don't know what you're calling it. And then you're doing 4 rounds of Swiss using the Deck A, and then 4 rounds of Swiss using your Deck B.
Exactly, yeah.
And then Top Cut the following day. What would that be? A best of 3. You have to win with both decks, I guess.
Yeah, so you'll decide which deck you're going to use. You do the die roll. You do the die roll first. Then you decide what deck you're going to use. You reveal to your opponent which one that you're going to use because they're going to have seen the deck lists beforehand. And yeah, then you play your games. And if it goes to game 3, then both players play the deck they lost with.
That's very exciting. So yeah, we've been talking all sorts of different deck combinations. So probably what we will focus on is sort of what decks we think people will bring, and then maybe what decks we think you should bring. Also, we've been to some regional stuff. We've had the regionals going on. It's the sort of the non-official nationals events that are going on. So we've had some regionals going on. So me and Mitch, we went to the Norwich one, which was a couple of weeks ago now, I think it was. And then Alex, you've had 2 down in London, so Brotherhood and the Darksphere one. Who maybe touch on our experiences there as well as we sort of prepare for proper competitive play again for the season. So where do we want to start? Should we talk about the regionals experience?
One thing, sorry, I think I may have misspoke earlier when I said for the Top Cut you decide your decks, then you roll the dice. I think I said it the other way around in case people listen to this and get confused. But
so you say your deck up front and then roll for turn. I suppose that's fair because you could influence.
Yeah. So you take your deck out, you choose it yourself, then you roll the die, lock it in, and then after the die roll has been decided, then you reveal the deck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so where do we want to start? Should we talk about the regional experience, or do you want to get straight into sort of meta-analysis and what decks we think? Or maybe start at the regionals, I guess.
Well, they both kind of go hand in hand, right?
So what deck did everyone take? The regionals are 1 deck format, so it's a bit easier. So, like, are you happy to discuss your decks, or are you keeping it secret text?
Oh yeah, super secret. Yeah, it's such a big deal to hear about my regional decks. Yeah.
So Alex, what did you take to? Did you play the same deck at both the regionals? The Brotherhood.
I played a different one each time. So the Brotherhood one was first. I played Kingsglaives for that. Both the regionals in London were best of 3 Swiss, no Top Cut. I've been enjoying Kingsglaives since the new Noctis came out, so I thought I'd just take that for a spin. I I was organising the event. I thought I might as well play because only been a small thing, so I just wanted to bring something I'd enjoy playing. Went 3-1 with that, and then the following week, having seen so much sort of soiree the first week, and just really liking the deck in general, I brought monks because it has such a good soiree matchup, and I went 3-1 with that, but I lost to Sky Pirates in that one, which was basically the least favorite deck you want to play against as monks. So that was a bit awkward, having played against 3 soiree the week before. But what can you do?
And Mitch, what did you take? Well, I know you took to Norwich, but for the benefit of the
Alright, yeah.
listeners,
I took a fire wind deck.
Braska. It was a Braska deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you've
I
got
also
the-
had a Braska deck, but it was a bit more mixed up. It was more of a summoners focus. So a couple of colours in there. But yeah, Mitch, you did pretty well in Norwich. You went 3-1.
Yeah, I went-
We had the
yeah.
same format as Alex, so best of 3, 4-round Swiss. So you went 3-1. I went 2-2, but the disclaimer is we had the unfortunate scenario where we were both on 2-1 and the final round was me versus Mitch, which is just what you want when you travel like 2.5 hours to play with new people and get drawn against the guy you play with every week. So that was unfortunate, but interesting experience. So Alex, for your Brotherhood side, so you had Kingsglaive. What were you sort of talked about the soirees as coming up. I think you told me earlier that was what one or both of the regionals actually. What was the sort of spread of decks you came up against in your 4 rounds?
So Brotherhood, it was Fire Lightning round 1, Soiree round 2, Soiree round 3, Soiree round 4.
Oh really? Okay, so soiree,
Yeah.
soiree fest.
Easy enough.
Yeah, I mean our Norwich experience, I don't know how like insightful this will be. So I mean, so both me and Mitch obviously played 4 rounds. We didn't really see any Opus 16 until round 4, which was against each other. So it was a weird one for us because I think that Opus 16 had been out like a week, so we were sort of expecting to see, we sort of said on the drive-in like, oh, as long as we're not just playing against samurais and sky pirates and stuff, everyone will be trying new stuff. It could be interesting. Literally did not see. I think I saw 1 Cecil in the first game, 1 Cecil in the second game. That was it for Opus 16 until I played Mitch. So it was a weird one for us. I think the decks there were like Bart's Boko. There was an Avalanche, Samurais, which was like Opus 15 Samurais with Squall in it, I think. What was the other stuff we had? Dragoons, Mannequins. So it's sort of like older decks. So it's a bit weird, a bit funky, but so I'm not sure how indicative that will be of Reraise. I don't know, maybe people are comfortable sticking with the older stuff, but I would have thought by Reraise people will be on the newer stuff. But I guess with 2-deck format you may fall into like an older format that you're sort of comfortable with. I don't know, but yeah, definitely we think Soirees is going to be sort of a big hitter. So I mean, for your side, Alex, the Kingsglaive, you said it's fun to play. It's obviously doing all right, going 3-1. Like, how much of it do you think is your sort of player skill versus the deck power?
It's quite interesting with the Kingsglaive because it was a pretty weak deck last set, even though that's where the majority of the support came from, because it was like mainly Nyx that was the main trick of the deck, banishing 5 Kingsglaive, getting out some strong 15 forwards. Now it got the new Noctis, which somehow in 1 card completely revolutionized the deck. I think it's one of those decks that will catch people off guard if they're not too aware of it, because it kind of goes back to like old style ways of playing Final Fantasy back in the earlier opuses, where it was more about, especially as a lightning deck, it was more about just not really caring what your opponent was doing, just removing everything, dulling everything, and then just dealing damage. It's that same kind of thing here, that unless there's something you must deal with on the board, like, Bismarck or Palom Porum, you can just kind of ignore everything else, just dull it with Noctis's effect and push damage, and you're generally going to be better than that than your opponent's deck is most of the time.
Yeah, that's quite cool. So it's like the soiree matchup. Sort of we were discussing. Maybe it's sort of weak to dull, but then they do have the like dog one that activates everything on the EX. But did you find the soiree matchup difficult or?
So at first it was really easy because the Kingsglaive kind of builds itself, and people were getting used to the matchup that were playing the soiree deck, and they weren't playing certain cards they started playing towards the regional time, like Aerith. So I was kind of just winning by them being a bunch of 8K bodies. A lot of my stuff's very cheap, like Noctis is a 9K for 0 most of the time. So it's kind of just, even if they kill it, doesn't really matter to me too much because like I could just play another one. It didn't cost me anything, and they can't beat over it without help. They have to like party attack into it, something like that. So you're always kind of winning just by just being bigger, and then you could dole them out of the way when you went to kill them. A lot of them play the new Cecil legend, which is like Noctis's worst enemy because you have to pay 2 every time you want to dole something with his effect. But even when that was on the board, yeah, you just play like Ignis down, which gives 1k in Brave. You've got Nyx to buff himself. You got the 1 CP forward Tread that can buff in combat, the backup Pelner which can buff in combat, etc. So the deck can just kind of win by brute force a lot of the time, which is pretty cool. And Soiree kind of preys upon like control decks and decks where their forwards tend to be like 8k or less because they're always going to have like Lexa down to buff their members to 8k, except to 9k, and so on and so forth.
That's cool. So the Earth Lightning 15. So which Regis do you use? The last one?
Both. I was on 2 of each. I have been on 2 of each for a while. I actually only own 2 of the 5-drop Regis, but I've tried 3 of the 5-drop online. That's been alright. The S ability is really good in the closing turns of the game. Basically gives you a free turn to like not die and then kill them back. And that Regis is really good with Nyx because you can bring it out with the effect, bring back like an Axis or any of the other Kingsglaives that have sacked themselves off that turn. And the 4-drop Regis is really very much like he's got that black belt syndrome where he's just a static 4-mana 8k. Yeah, he reduces your stuff, but he's such a heavy initial investment that it's hard to warrant ever playing like more than 1 copy down in a game. But that card has still been really good in the games where I've opted to play him down. So they're both pretty good.
That's interesting. It's not really a deck I've been. I know people were saying the Noctis is really good, and they're sort of making the deck, but not really seen anything, so I haven't really been considering it. I guess that's kind of sort of the angle that we've been coming from in terms of people aren't really familiar with it. If you start playing soirees, people know what's coming, and so you can sort of play around a bit. But I think there is an opportunity for like something a little bit off radar, slightly not so obvious. And maybe Kingslave fits a nice little profile of being sort of familiar, but to play with without being too problem. Would you take that as one of your decks if you were playing? Obviously, you're going to be organising the tournament, so you won't be able to participate. Would it make one of your decks, do you think? Or
I'd definitely be tempted by it. The problem is I would prioritize monks. So both of those decks
you'd
want
lose
to be
the
playing
Earth cards?
Shantoto. Yeah, it's not the Earth, it's just Shantoto
Just
really.
Shantoto,
But
okay.
I would rather not play an Earth deck without Shantoto at the moment, I think. So I'd probably go for something. Oh, some kind of. I'd probably be boring and play something like monks and sky pirates, but I could be tempted into Kingsglaive still.
That's cool. So, Mitch, from your side, you've been enjoying the Braska. Well, we both have been enjoying Braska, the new starter card. Again, you sort of feel it's Firewind Braska, utilising the Sky Pirate backups, which obviously tap for water because of Philo's ability. So that
Yeah.
sort of sets up your Braska special. You've been enjoying that. And again, you feel it's one that people might not be so attuned to playing against. Even though a lot of people
Yeah.
were trying Braska, I think it's probably people don't think it's sort of top tier, so they might not be attuned to playing against it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when you're going into some tournaments, if you don't know what you're up against, things can surprise you, and I think can be a big thing in in Swiss. Like if you come up against someone who doesn't know what your deck can do, there's a lot of yeah. So there's just a lot of things that your opponent might misplay into. Like for example, if you were running just Alice, just come to my mind because Alex said a Shantotto in a deck, but you only had one way to play it. Say if you had like Sarah and turn that into Earth, people wouldn't know why you've turned it into Earth. But so I think that's why I like it this so much, is because at the moment, if it became strong, then I think the weaknesses would start to show. But no one's gonna tech to go against this deck, and it's very removal heavy. So that's why it's just plays into my style as well. I like a lot of removal.
It's got a few little surprises in it as well. Even if you think you sort of, I don't know if I'll reveal them for you, but you've got some sort of like cheeky little cards in there to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, you can reveal them because I doubt people are going to know me when they when it comes up to it.
So yeah, there's sort of the cheeky sometimes. I said Mitch has gone on the Zidane and Lani side of things, so you're sort of removing stuff and then stealing their. So it is quite toxic to do sort of Lani Zidane. I don't know how you found. I'm not enjoying playing against Zidane. I don't like it. I know some people that don't think it's that good, based on the other Zidanes and stuff, and they don't think it's too bad. I really hate it. So I will try and remove it sort of as quick as I can. Maybe it's just because, you know, the decks now will have such good cards to steal. I don't want you to steal any of my good stuff and play it back against me. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So yeah, playing against Mitch is. I think we had a game. Well, I think actually in the Norwich Swish, he stole like 5 of my cards in our second game.
Yeah,
which was not
because
good.
as I said, it's fire wind, so I feel like Cecil into like a Lani is always quite nice. It's a nice target, and just it seems to be. I said I don't know. I feel like it has potential. This deck. It's just you can come up against. I haven't really come up against a lot of decks that I've had problems with, but then I know there's going to be something I haven't thought about, and it's going to completely stump me. So the idea of the deck is that it can deal with most issues. I'll always have a card that can try and deal with. I can deal with, but as I said, I think I need to test it against stuff like Sky Pirates. That's the only thing I haven't really tested it against at the moment. But I'm not sure. I imagine Sky Pirates will be popular for this tournament, so because as you said, it's something that someone knows, but we'll see how good it
Yeah,
actually.
there's something someone knows, and also the wind water elements gives you access to a lot of other things without sort of diminishing the pool of cards to pick from. So like Alex, and he's got his Kingslave, he's taken the Shantoto, so now he couldn't play Earth in something else. Obviously, wind water, you're opened up to. You could get away with Soiree deck as your deck 2 and Sky Pirates probably without too much crossover.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. Likewise with the Samurai side as well. I think that will still be quite popular. Obviously, it's had a couple of buffs into an already quite well functioning deck, namely Squall, which we talked about. So again, that's like a nice sort of easy pick mono element, keeps you open. And again with the Soiree side, even if you do take the fire Soirees, I suppose would you go Amaterasu in Soiree? I think people are, aren't they?
I mean, if you're running fire cards, you run Amaterasu for the most part.
Maybe that does block you out a bit from Samurais. It's pretty boring to go with Samurais and Sky Pirates like that, but I'm sure people will as like both their decks. But yeah, no, it is a bit of an unknown because the competitive side is just, we haven't had much to go off. Although we have had some nationals, haven't we? Elsewhere, I think the Dutch national was last weekend.
Yeah,
I'll probably bring up again. I remember seeing the top 8. 4 of them were Soiree. It was this Benelux one. So yeah, you need to practice against the Soirees, definitely. It was a Chocobo deck, that one. So maybe that will influence people a bit. Sometimes you get a bit of people jumping on. What did you think of that? Did you see the Chocobo deck, Alex?
Yeah. A few of the people I chat with tested it over the weekend after it won. I made my own version, play with it a little bit. It's good. It's strong, can catch people off guard. Has the same issues like I figured it would when I saw Fat Chocobo in the first place, and that sometimes you play the fatty down turn 1 and they do have a good answer for it and you lose a lot of tempo. And also you are just playing wind cards, so you're playing 47 cards and then 3 Bismarcks. And if you don't see one of your 3 Bismarcks on the board and have it kind of stick for a little while, Deck feels a lot weaker otherwise, but it is very fun, very spammy. You're not playing board clear. It can just kind of overwhelm with the amount of bodies it puts on board, that kind of thing. And it's been pretty good versus Soiree from what I've seen so far, because it just gets set up faster than they do, and they don't play like removal early into the game because they normally need to set up a few backups to get like Merrilled online. So turn one Fat Chocobo probably gets you a lot of draws and a lot of free backups in that matchup.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's Felix, wasn't it, that one? I think he was saying
Indeed.
Soiree was a good matchup for him, so he was quite happy. Lots of people were playing it because, like you said, he can go early with the Fat Choco and then sort of set himself up. So that's cool. Yeah. So in terms of like what decks do you, if people are not sure, so myself and Mitch, we're quite happy with our deck A, but we don't know what to do with deck B. So what do you think people should, if you're sort of similar, not sure where to start, where to go, what would you go? What would be your two decks that you would take? Or you think people should at least consider if you had like a short list?
I think a simple place to start is a deck that beats Soiree and then Soiree. It's always a decent strategy if you expect to see a lot of a certain matchup that you try and play better in the mirror match and win that, and then you play the deck that beats that deck, so then you just beat that deck 2-0, hopefully. Obviously, that can backfire a bit if you lose the mirror match, and then your second deck isn't well suited to what they've got as their second deck. Otherwise, you can take two decks to target Soiree, which I think is possible. Or you can just play just like stuff that doesn't really care too much about the matchups, I guess, and it's just strong, like it's good, like Avalanche and Sky Pirates, and just hope the power of those strategies and synergies just kind of carries you through enough games.
Yeah, so I was trying Avalanche the other night at Calamity. Didn't really click for me. I didn't get it going, and it didn't beat Soiree as well. I sort of got outpaced by Soiree. So yeah, maybe that's the focus on beating Soiree. It's all good tips. The problem I've got with my deck A, which I'm happy with, is it's a mixture of colours because, like I said, it's a summoner sort of focused deck. So I've got 3 colours in there. So earth, water and fire. And I've taken the best cards out of those 3 elements. So it's really limited what I can play in my deck B. Because like you said, there's earth options, so like the Avalanche side, but I wouldn't have Amaterasu or Shantoto, which I think is a problem to not have those. The earth side or fire side, I'd want the Squall. I was going to build a deck around Squall as my deck B, and I've ended up using it in this deck. So I'm a bit stuck. So I think I'm going to have to go off radar, I think. Which the deck A is very off radar. And then mix it in. But it's probably going to be less optimal stuff. So I might be on that camp. But maybe you're right, I should focus on my deck B can try and match up to Soiree. That might be the way I need to start.
I think it's worth just considering the matchups when when making decks, but it's better to go with something you're comfortable with than something that you don't know what you're playing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the deck side of things sorted. So then, how do you, if you're you've got your 2 decks, let's say you've settled on them, get to the tournament, how do you split which one you're going to play first, which one you're going to play second? We're thinking, okay, lots of people are probably going to play. There's going to be a lot of Soirees, maybe quite a bit of Avalanche. Which one do you go first? It's like, do you go with your strongest deck, or like you said, play a deck you think can beat Soiree, for example, or play it and Soiree and hope you win the mirror. So how do you go about making sure you pick the right deck? So yeah, as we said, it's the first 4 rounds will be your deck A, and the second 4 will be your deck B. So you have no in between about sort of mix and match in between rounds. So what do you go first?
Well, I would always say play the deck you're most comfortable with first, just because of the way how tournament tiebreakers work. If you win your first 4 rounds, then you're already locked for top cut if you just win 2 of the last 4. So in theory, you want to play your comfortable deck first because you want to get that strong start and not have to worry too much about your second deck. Whereas if you play your weaker deck and you go 0-2 and then win your next 6, you could be, based on the Swiss calculator, I did top cut calculator, you could be the unlucky person who makes it in a 17th or even possibly 18th, I think, if you lose your first 2 rounds, because it will make your overall tiebreakers weaker.
Is that
So I would
strength
just
of
play with
schedule
your
based
stronger.
then?
Yeah.
So because you've lost your first 2, you'll be at the bottom,
Yeah, you'll play against other opponents that have lost. So
lower
your
ranked.
people, even if you win 6 games on the trot, you would have only played against, the highest person you would have played against would have been an X2, basically.
That's interesting. I've never considered that. So you try and go with your strongest and get the lead up. Is that how you go, Mitch, as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Always strongest first.
And then just hope it's not the one that counters the deck that when you see it later. I suppose you wouldn't see the same opponent, would you? Because it's going to be, you are unlikely to see the same people twice, aren't you? So you won't feel too
not
bummed
until
if
top cut.
you won't feel too bummed if you're like, oh, I would have beaten his deck B because it's a good matchup for me. So there's less of that. Oh, that makes things better. I hadn't really considered that. All right, strongest first. It's all quite clear cut. I thought there'd be more discussion on this. All right, strongest deck first, and then try and claw something out with your deck B once you've got your 4-0 lead, and then just watch it all evaporate away from you. Or just quit there. I was saying to Alex in the week, I might just quit at halfway, go 4-0, and then don't bring a deck B. Just call it a day.
Yeah. I mean, to add, there is like the potential. Like, I don't know how many people think this deeply, but if you play your fastest deck first as well, it'll mean you won't be so sort of, I guess, feeling so sluggish towards the end. So if you play like a hard control deck for 4 rounds, even if you're playing an aggro deck for the back 4, then you might still be kind of exhausted by the time rounds 5 to 8 come around. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another point. Except my best deck is controlly focused. Okay, this is not looking good for me. I'll just enjoy the day. I think enjoy being out in the wild. But actually, maybe that's a good point to say. So we are planning to do like a podcast blog on the day. So I will be roving around with my microphone. We won't do video because some people get uncomfortable with the video camera around and stuff. It'll be easy with a microphone. So I'll be around with a microphone. So if you see me and want to come on, just grab me and we can do a little interview. I'll try and see how it goes. And if people are sort of free and stuff, I'll try and grab some familiar faces from the community, and get some sound bites, and we'll like mash them all together for like a Reraise blog day. So keep your eyes peeled for a man with a microphone on a stick, and come and say hello, and I'll try and get you on. I'll probably try and grab you if you're not too busy, Alex. Crunching numbers, and we'll get it going. So yeah, so that might be my job for the day. If I'm scrubbing out, just go around and record people instead. But yeah, no, it's very exciting. And then day 2, top cut. So we'll be 32 top cut, will it? With 100
top 16.
plus. Top 16.
That's what we're looking at, yeah.
Okay, so top 16, best of 3. So again, so is it similar focus? You go strongest deck first, or is there more mind games now? You know your opponent and what decks they've got.
So the best of 3 is pretty different because you effectively get to decide which decks go first and second, right? So if you have a deck that really wants to go first, then you'll always want to take that second, because if you lose the first round, you get to play that deck next and hopefully win with it. And then you play the other deck going second in the third game. If you win with your first deck, then you get to play your going first deck going second, but if you lose, then you play that deck again going first. So that's kind of the way I think about it. So if I want to play something that always wants to go first because of the way like its backup curve works, or just maybe it's a little bit slower, so it wants the slight edge of going first.
Oh, so you mean as in going first?
Second.
First, you want to go first turn. So not about the strongest side of taking it first. You mean I want to play a card down first?
Yeah. So it's like certain decks, the way the like backup curve works, for example, is that a lot of them will be some of them can be slow. Like say monks, for example, You might go like turn 1 backup pass, turn 2 play 3-drop monk, add a monk back pass. But then if you're going second, you'd have 6 cards in your hand. Then you'd have to have another backup immediately. It's those kind of things. If you expect your backup curve to be a bit slower, then and you draw a bit slow on backups themselves, then going second is worse for you.
That's interesting. So you go that way. So you go first. So you lose with your deck. You're going to play your other one. But if you know that's your stronger one, you've got like a free hit on it because you'll either be one up, or you'll be needing to win the second game, and then you'll feel more confident because you know your other deck is a sort of big hitter.
Yeah.
And then if that wins, you then go back to deck one. Is that right?
Yeah, and some decks you don't mind going first or second with anyway, so there's probably going to be a one you prefer. Whether or not the strategy cares about going first or second, there's probably just one that doesn't matter as much to you. Like say Avalanche, for example. Interesting thing about like going first or second with Avalanche is going first, you just, especially in Top Cut, they're going to know you're playing Avalanche, so they're going to kind of prepare for it. But turn 1, you get to play your backup and threaten your combo from turn 2. And if you go second with Avalanche, they might play a 4-drop backup turn 1, and you might happen to have like a wedge combo straight away to break that backup. So it gives you puts your opponent at a bit more risk as well, because they can't tell what your hand strength is when they play their first backups down.
That's quite scary, isn't it? I'll probably not ever get them. So Mitch, you've top cutted before, which I'm sure you'll be glad for me to bring up. Is that your mindset as well, or do you have a different approach to it?
I genuinely just wing it. I'm not going to lie.
So what are you thinking? You would maybe go with what you think is strongest first.
Yeah, I'd always go with what I think is strongest first, just because I think even if you're doing go with your strongest first, you can judge. You sort of like judge how you're playing on the day as well. I think like a deck where you know it in and out and everything like that, you can sort of just do it on just by playing your deck so many times. You know what your deck can do. Can't really think of the term for it, but you just play it on like autopilot.
Yeah, so then you sort of maybe if it was me or you, might have a bit more nerves than Alex, who's sort of a seasoned sort of top cut pro. So calm the nerves, play the one you're most comfortable with, most familiar with, most confident with. Try and get that win on the board, and then see what happens in the next game. Scrape through. If you you get 2 shots, then at scraping through with the lesser deck.
The other big brain option is to try and predict what deck your opponent's going to play first, and if you've got a deck that deals particularly well with that, which is a bit riskier if it can obviously turn sideways if they play the other deck, but having that more comfortable. You always want to win game 1 in these kind of things, but a good way you can actually sometimes tell what deck your opponent's going to lead with. Obviously, they can like double bluff it and do it the other way around. But some people, they have 2 deck lists for these events. One of them is a very generic meta deck, and one of them is this deck they've crafted carefully, poured their entire heart and soul into, and they're generally more inclined to play that deck first because they want to. That's the deck they enjoy the most, so they're going to play that. So you with your 3-color thing, your 3-color summoner deck.
I'm going to be taking that first.
Yeah, and if you brought like samurais along, just the most bog standard 50-card samurais, they'd be like, he's probably going to play his deck he enjoys most first, and try and get the win with that out of the way, and then give himself 2 chances with the boring deck kind of thing.
The different levels, isn't there, Mitch, to this game?
Yeah,
the mindsets. It's interesting.
But I do agree. I think it is like if you play, you will want to play the deck that you enjoy the most, especially if later on in the day you're going to be tired. You're not going to enjoy the deck that you've built yourself as much. So if you spend the whole day playing something that basically someone else has made, then the enjoyment sort of disappears a little bit.
So how does it work so I'd say I go in my favourite, not my top deck, my favourite deck, the one I'm most comfortable with, and I lose that first round. do I have to use the second deck even though I've lost, or do I get
No.
to rerun that one again?
You get to rerun it, yeah.
So then that's not too bad either, is it? 'Cause you sort of get 2 bites. And also, if you've predicted that your deck is good against the other matchup, and you lose the first one, you then know you can sort of claw it back against the round 2. Yeah, there's lots to think about. Like, obviously, you'll get there first, but this is all very interesting insight.
I imagine we're all going to have 8 rounds, so. But as I said, it is good to prep what you want to do when you're going in there. As I said, I think, as Alex said, I think one I'm going to go with, one I'm comfortable with, and one I'm just going to maybe not just aggro down someone, but it's going to be far more aggressive than the first one, or have the potential to be far more aggressive.
Yeah, or sort of more one-dimensional. This is what I'm going for.
Yeah, but then it's also, I think the aggressive deck is going to have a better soiree matchup than the control deck. So it sort of makes you think which one's best to go with.
Yeah, swings and roundabouts. Lots to consider. And then on the side of like mental fatigue and getting tired, I mean, do people have sort of top tips for everything? You know, if you've not played at one of these before, this might be your first big event, big tournament. We got any top tips for the day? I mean, obviously Brotherhood. Are you supplying food this time? You know, I have a little kitchen there. You know,
Yes,
like your Costco muffins and all that
there'll
stuff.
be a kitchen on the day. Yep.
So food is readily available in Brotherhood. My top tip, which no one ever follows from my team, is to bring stuff, to take like a packed lunch with you and stuff. It's very old school, but I find that lunch break, just being able to eat your sandwich or whatever straight away and not have to go off trekking to town, just helps with the fluster and the stress on the day. So like bring some drinks and some food and snacks and stuff to keep you going, so you don't having to like run off to Tesco or whatever when you get a break and stuff. Do you follow that, or you just... Yeah, Alex, I've always said in the past you get quite nervous at these sort of events when you're playing.
Yeah, so I back when I was hardcore, I used to stick to a very strict routine, or I would drink water every round until I needed to pee. Then I would pee, I would stop drinking for the round, I'd play my next round, do all over again. And I would have this, it's consistent routine of you kind of train your, I guess, bladder throughout the event to do this thing. So you don't want to like have to go mid-match, but you also want to keep drinking because hydration is one of the most important things. And then when it comes to eating food, it's a case of bringing a packed lunch is good. Bringing something you know you're going to be comfortable eating. Like the worst thing you can do is kind of get too tempted by, I don't know, some super spicy meatball sub, like middle of the day, and then you know after the first 4 rounds, you're like your 4-0, you're like, yeah, I'm going to celebrate with this delicious hot food, and then you know it comes to round 6 and your tummy starts going a bit funny maybe, or you just think, yeah, I don't know, start getting the meat sweats or something, I don't know, something like that.
This is you're describing Mitch's tournament prep.
Yeah.
We've got 2 sides
Yeah,
of this.
so
I'm glad you've gone down the preparation and hydration talk and stuff. I was worried I'd be like just talking nonsense. So yeah, I think it's very important to prepare and be ready and not do, as Mitch says, we'd wing through it and get stuck.
Yeah, like I feel like Alex was actually just calling me out there. He was
literally
that's exactly what I would do. But then you get the panic of like, oh, I need the toilet. Can we hurry up this round, please? And then you hurry your opponent. But
there is some research that if you need to go to the toilet, it actually sharpens your focus and you make better decisions. I think there's been some research papers on that. So maybe needing to go isn't a bad thing, because it sharpens you. As long as you're not like proper busting, like you're on that like fine edge of sort of slight sense of mild urgency of wanting to go, but not that you can't stop it. We don't want you to pee yourself in the hole, because that's problematic for everyone. But yeah, there is some research that shows if you're on the edge, it heightens your focus and your decision making. So maybe that might not be a bad thing either. Hydration. So, that's cool. Top tip there. Be prepared. Bring water. But then, like I said, Brotherhood's got stuff on site which is handy, so you can always like top up. And it's not at Brotherhood, is it? The big I forget the name of the hall, the community hall.
Yeah, the Silverlock Hall. Yeah, I mean that's where we first started running events. So that is kind of where Brotherhood. Well, not first where we started, but that's where we run our big events. So it is Brotherhood.
Yeah, nice
but
big
it is,
hall, toilets, and like a little kitchen where there's food and for sale and stuff. So yeah, it's a nice venue. So and if you're really that side of things, you do get like anxious or nervous about stuff, like Google the hall and have a look at. There's like pictures online of it, so you can sort of familiarize yourself what you're going into, what to expect. That helps as well. Preparation.
Yeah, always...
Prepare to. Was it to fail to prepare? Is to prepare to fail. So everything's there to get it ready.
Planning to in Sage today.
What's that?
It's
been a corporate day. Yeah, it's been a corporate day. But no, I think it's the last thing people think about. They do all the other stuff and they don't actually prepare themselves for the day. And I think it's important. I've been talking to you about it, Mitch, because I know it's one of your like weaknesses, or the weak side is you don't think about it, and then you get wrapped up in the games and you get stressed about the games themselves, and like you're sort of losing half the battle just in sort of the mental preparation. It sounds silly, it's like a children's card game, but I think it's important people consider that side of things as well.
Yeah, I agree. As I said, that is one of the things that I do most, is I just don't really think about it. But I think it's something that needs to be considered when you're playing.
Yeah. And then I suppose the last side of it is the mental side of playing. So you've just had a round, maybe you've not done very well, you got stomped, you've been aggroed out. Like, how do you, maybe you made some misplays, or you did your tactics wrong or something. How do you sort of decompartmentalize your previous game or stuff? Do you like to talk through the games afterwards, Alex, or is it just you just wipe it and move on one game at a time, straight on to the next game, or do you sort of ruminate and...
I try not to think about the game too much, and I try not to talk about the game too much, obviously because of that. I try to just kind of move on and get out of my head. I mean, my best example of how I dealt with it is 2018 World Championship, where I lost the first round. I had done a decent amount of preparation for it, and I lost round one. And I lost round one because I made a somewhat minor mistake that ended up costing me the entire... a couple of minor mistakes that ended up costing me the entire match. And after I lost, it was like I'd kind of just been punched in the face. It was like, but not like actual pain, but it's like, when you get an injury when you whack your knee or something, and then your body starts sending out the chemicals to kind of try and relax it and just make you a bit, I don't know what the word is for it, but you just kind of chill out and calm down and relax. That's what I had to do there. I was just like, well, okay, I've lost round one. If I lose again, I'm out. So at that point, it was like, I just got to play. I just got to forget about it, move on, play my game, play my best game. If I lose, I lose. And thankfully I didn't. That kind of kept me actually more focused. I was not overthinking things as much. I was just like, I do this play because this play is what I think is the best, and we'll see how it goes. And that ended up working out. So I would sort of strongly recommend that. Get like the worst thing I see, and from a lot of other players, is that while they're losing or after they lose, is complaining, oh, I didn't hit enough EX bursts, or my opponent hit EX bursts, or I drew too many backups, or stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. You always, if you're going to actually think about the game like that, you want to actually analyze the things you could have done differently. If my opponent hit too many EX bursts, did I actually need to attack in that situation? If I drew too many backups, did I play too many backups down early? That kind of thing. Just small things where it's always better to think about maybe what you could have done better than complain about what happened and that you can't change.
It's interesting. So, Mitch, how do you go in terms of the mental side? Are you similar to Alex, or do you get a bit more hung up on games?
No. I genuinely just, if I've lost, I'll just chalk it up to I've misplayed somewhere. I'll think about it later. You've got more games to play. Focus on them. I've also noticed myself a few times, just while I'm playing, I'll be thinking of something else, like, oh, I wonder if I could run this in my deck, and I always tend to try and catch myself doing that and just be like, no, focus on what they have, focus what's in front of you, what you have in your hand, what you can draw, or what you need for this situation. I've sort of, there's a big thing that I've tried to get myself into more recently is just focusing on the game and not just because I'm quite easily distracted, especially by myself for some reason. So I'll just try and focus on the game, and if I've lost the last game, that's in the past. I can worry about that after the tournament and see where I went wrong. So I'll just take every game as it comes.
Yeah, I tend to get more stressed for the very first game, just for like, oh, who is the opponent going to be? Who is going to be someone I don't know? What are they going to be playing? Am I going to do rubbish or something? And then once the first game's over, the rest of the day I'm fine. So if I've lost the first game, then I'm similar, less so for Alex because he's like, well, I've got to win everything now as I'm out. I'll be like, okay, it's over. Don't worry about top cutting. I've lost the first round. Let's just enjoy the games and see what happens and try and get on a sort of get as many as I can. And then likewise, if I win, I'm like, okay, I've won. That gets the sort of edge off it, takes the notch off. Okay, I've got a win on the board. I'm not going to completely scrub out, and then I tend to relax and enjoy it. But yeah, I'm a different level to both of you in many ways. So I'm just there for the enjoyment of it, see what happens. So a bit more. I tend to get more hung up on the sort of initial getting, what's the venue like? Have I got my deck listing on time and all that sort of stuff? Get hung up on all that stuff. Once we get going, I'm usually all right. So yeah, no, it's good advice, good insights. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're very excited for Reraise. If you haven't got your ticket, go quick. There's only a few left, and come and join it. You get some good stuff for going. And what's the prizes for just turning up, Alex? We've got the special Amaterasu promo, which is a full art. Has it got a Reraise stamp on it? I think it says Reraise.
Yeah, I believe
22.
it says Reraise. Yeah, Reraise 2022, and then you get 2 booster packs of Opus 60.
So yeah, it's well worth just turning up for them and then see what happens. And then you've got some good prizing as well for the top cut as well. So
yep, a lot of it provided by our friends at Square Enix, which is greatly appreciated, and the rest laid out by us. You got a Aerith Play Art Sky, or the top 2, the full foil set including full art for first, and then a bunch of other good stuff like Opus 16 boxes, plushes, and let's not forget that top 32 Carabiner Meteor thing. Yeah,
so even if you don't top cut, that's why I got the top 32 from them, from the prizing. It says prizing even if you don't get into the top cut, top 32 prizing. So yeah, exciting times. Is there going to be anything else on the day? Oh, we should talk about maybe quickly day 2. So if you don't make it, your ticket covers both days because it's a 2-day event. So top cut will happen on day 2. If you don't make it into the top cut, day 2, your ticket still gets you entry to day 2, and there is a second event happening, which is a 2v2 Highlander format. So Highlander is where you can only have one copy of each card in your deck. Other rules are the same, so 50 cards, but you can only have one copy of each card, and then you'll be pairing up with another person to take on other 2s, and obviously not playing together. So is that right? So you play, each pair will play around against the person, and then whoever gets the most wins. Is that what it is, or?
Yeah, so it's basically like you play a best of 1 with the same like team member on the opposite team. So if you play A, you play against player A, player B plays against player B. If the result is 1-1 after, then the losing decks, they get paired up against each other, but then both players on the team get to like control the deck at the same time, make joint decisions, and hopefully it will be fun. Any arguing over the correct play will hopefully be more amusing than it is serious. Yeah, they should be a nice little fun. It's a different format, doesn't really come up very often, means everyone should be on a level playing field, and 2v2 should just make it, I think, more enjoyable for everyone. Team events are always a good laugh.
Yeah, there's always a good vibe on day 2 because lots of people won't come back for day 2 from the 100 and stuff. But yeah, if you do go, it is always good. Day 2 is fun. There's side stuff going on. So yeah, and you've reduced the restriction for element colours, haven't you? So if you don't have someone to play with, just join in because they'll be able to pair you up with other spare people So if if you're coming on your own for day 2, you should be able to find someone else to play with. It doesn't matter if you've both got like a fire deck or something, because that was one of the early restrictions, wasn't it? But you've lifted that. So should be very inclusive, and as Alex said, it's all fun, and then you'll be able to see what's going on in the main tournament as well, because that'll be going on in the background.
Yep, and even if Highlander isn't your cup of tea, then there'll be some kind of standard format event if people want that. It can be L6, can be title if there's enough interest there. All sorts really. I'm open to whatever on day 2. Anyone who doesn't make it, if they can, if a group of people want to do the same thing, then we'll run a tournament and we'll give prizing for it. It's no big deal for us. So as long as everyone has a good weekend.
Yeah, awesome. So on that note, we'll wrap up today's episode. So thanks both for coming on. Thanks, Alex, for your sort of deep insight into the sort of pro player mindset. I know you won't like me saying that, but as I said, there are levels to this game, so it's nice to hear that bit of insight. So cool. So other than that, we will see you at Reraise. As I said, keep an eye out for us. Come and say hello, and I'll try and get some blogging done on the day for our next episode, and that will come out after Reraise. So good luck, Reraisers, and we'll see you next time with our Reraise report. See you later.
See you later. Stay cool, everybody.